You ever study all night for your exam tomorrow? Feel super prepared, then look at the first question and suddenly forget everything? It's frustrating, right? See, we live in an information age where knowledge is at our fingertips 24/7, but most of us struggle to actually retain and apply what we learn. You read a book, but forget 90% of it. You watch an online course, but couldn't explain it to a 5-year-old if your life depended on it. You study for an exam, and the moment you put your pen down, your brain hits Control plus Delete. Why does this happen? Well, most people assume that reading more, taking more notes, or cramming harder will help them remember more, but that's not how memory works. Your brain isn't a hard drive that stores everything perfectly. It's more like a muscle that needs the right kind of training. So today, I'm going to teach you a step-by-step system that will reprogram your brain to retain more of what you learn permanently. This isn't some random trick. It is a proven method. I've been using this system for years in business strategy and skill development, and let me tell you, it's life-changing. The harsh truth about memory: you're forgetting 80% in 48 hours. Before we dive into the system, let's start with a painful reality. Most of what you learn is forgotten within 2 days. This is called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and it looks like this. You learn something today, and 2 days later, you remember almost nothing. Why? Because your brain is lazy. It doesn't want to store everything. It only keeps what it thinks is important. So, if you don't actively reinforce what you learn, your brain will flush it away like yesterday's garbage. But don't worry, there's a way to hack the system. Here's something counterintuitive. You don't actually want to remember everything. And we know this thanks to a guy named Kim Peek, the real-life inspiration behind the movie Rain Man. He could read a book once and memorize it word for word, including page numbers. Recall 15,000 books from memory. Give you perfect driving directions between any 2 cities faster than Google Maps. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, not exactly, because while Kim could remember everything, he struggled with understanding and applying information. In other words, memory without meaning is useless. If you and Kim took a test together, who would win? If it was a memorization test, Kim would crush you. But if it required problem solving or creativity, you might actually beat him. So, the goal isn't to memorize everything, it's to retain and apply the right information. Introducing the PACER system, how to remember everything. Not all information is the same. Trying to remember a recipe isn't the same as remembering philosophy, and memorizing a foreign language isn't the same as learning business strategy. So instead of treating everything the same, I use a system called PACER. P is for procedural, which explains how to do something step by step. A is for analogous, which helps connect new information to what you already know. C is for conceptual, which focuses on big ideas, theories, and principles. E is for evidence, which includes facts, statistics, and real-world examples. R is for reference, which consists of random details you might need later. Each category requires a different memory technique. Let's break it down. Number 1, P or procedural, the how-to knowledge. This is skill-based knowledge, the stuff you learn by doing, not just by reading or watching. Think of it like this. Learning how to write code means actually typing out those lines, not just nodding along to a YouTube tutorial. Learning how to speak Spanish means practicing full sentences, not just memorizing hola and gracias. Learning how to play basketball means actually shooting hoops, not just watching highlight reels of your favorite players. And here's the biggest trap. Most people read about a skill and think, oh yeah, I totally get it. Nah, you don't. Reading about swimming doesn't mean you can swim. You wouldn't jump into the deep end of a pool just because you read a blog post about the perfect freestyle technique, unless you want to experience sink or swim in its most literal form. Same thing goes for any other skill. Watching a tutorial on playing the guitar doesn't mean you can suddenly strum out a song. You might think you sound like Ed Sheeran, but your neighbors will strongly disagree. So here's the golden rule. If you don't practice it immediately, you'll forget it just as fast. Your brain isn't a USB drive. It doesn't just store skills for later. You gotta use it or lose it. So stop overthinking, start practicing, and actually do the thing. Number 2, A or analogous, meaning connecting to what you already know. This is when you take something new and tricky and hook it onto something your brain already understands. It's like giving your mind a shortcut instead of forcing it to build a whole new road from scratch. For example, trying to grasp gravity. Imagine dropping a bouncy ball. No matter how hard you throw it down, it always comes right back up, but never quite as high as before. Gravity is like an invisible hand, constantly pulling everything back to Earth's surface. Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it deeply. And let's be real, if your explanation has more twists than a detective novel, you probably need a better analogy. Number 3, C or conceptual, meaning big ideas, theories, and principles. If procedural knowledge is the how to do something, then conceptual knowledge is the why things work the way they do. It's the deeper understanding behind the action, the rules, patterns, and ideas that shape the world. For example, the concept of supply and demand. Ever wonder why the price of avocados suddenly spikes? It just takes one bad harvest, and boom, your guacamole just got a lot more expensive. Another example is the theory of relativity. Ever noticed how time feels so slow when you're waiting in line, but time feels due fast when you're having fun? Turns out, time itself isn't as fixed as we think, and Einstein proved it. He proved that time bends and stretches depending on motion and gravity. Number 4. E, or evidence, meaning facts, stats, and case studies. This is the supporting data, the solid proof behind an argument, theory, or claim. It's what separates, I heard this somewhere, from here's why this is true. For example, in scientific studies, why do experts keep saying sleep is crucial? Because studies show that missing just a few hours messes with memory, reaction time, and even your immune system. Another example in businesses. Ever wondered why businesses copy Apple's marketing strategies? Because case studies show that their brand loyalty tactics actually work. But here's the problem. Facts are easy to forget. You read them, think, that's interesting, and then a day later, poof, gone. So, how do you make it stick? Best method? Summarize and use it. Write it in your own words. Don't just highlight it, actually process it. Apply it in a real conversation. Use that fact in a discussion, debate, or even a random chat. Teach it to someone else. Explaining something forces you to truly understand it. Because here's the truth. Knowledge you don't use is knowledge you'll lose. So don't just collect facts, try to engage with them. Number 5, R, or reference, meaning random details you might need later. Not everything needs deep understanding. Some things just need to be stored somewhere in your brain, so you can pull them out later when you need it. Think of it as the stuff you just need to know. For example, in formula names. You don't need to prove Einstein's equation, but remembering E equals mc squared might save you from looking clueless in a conversation. But here's the problem. Your brain is great at forgetting. You might cram a bunch of facts today, feel super smart for an hour, and then wake up tomorrow wondering where all that knowledge went. Best method? Spaced repetition. Don't cram all the knowledge all at once. Review them over time. Your brain likes repeated exposure, not last-minute panic. Use flashcards. Apps like Anki or Quizlet make this ridiculously easy. Instead of rereading, test yourself. Active recall works better. Because here's the truth. Facts fade unless you fight back. But with the right system, even the most random knowledge sticks when you actually need it. If you don't review, connect, and apply, what you learn will disappear. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe.